Begin today's tale. Tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Breaking Point. Devin Novak stared at the blinking cursor on his screen, the only light in his cramped apartment at 3:42 a.m. His eyes burned from exhaustion, but he couldn't stop now. Not when he was so close. The eviction notice taped to his refrigerator was a constant reminder of what was at stake. 3 months behind on rent, living on ramen and coffee, all because Novak Industries, his family's once thriving tech company, had collapsed spectacularly 8 months ago. The company his grandfather had built from nothing. The company his father, Lawrence Novak, had expanded into a regional powerhouse. The company that, under the mismanagement of the board his father had appointed, including Devin's brother-in-law Preston Hargrove, had hemorrhaged money until declaring bankruptcy. Devin took another swig of cold coffee and continued typing. His revolutionary software framework, codenamed Phoenix, was unlike anything on the market. While the company had focused on outdated hardware solutions, Devin had seen the future, adaptive AI infrastructure that could revolutionize how businesses manage their digital ecosystems. His phone buzzed. Brianna, his wife of 5 years. Still working? Her voice was groggy with sleep. Almost there, Devin said, rubbing his eyes. Just solving the last integration issue. It's almost 4 in the morning, Dev. Come to bed. The company's gone. We need to move on. Devin gripped the phone tighter. I can save it, Bree. I know I can. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Whatever, she finally said. I'm going back to sleep. The call ended. Their relationship had been strained since the bankruptcy. Brianna came from money, old Boston wealth that looked down on the nouveau riche Novaks. She'd married Devin during the company's peak, when his family name carried weight and his future seemed secure. Now, she barely looked at him. Devin turned back to his screen, determination hardening into resolve. He would save the company, not just for himself, but to prove everyone wrong. His father, who always favored his sister Melody, the board who ignored his warnings about their outdated business model, and yes, even Brianna, whose faith in him had evaporated with her bank account. 3 hours later, as dawn broke over Boston, Devin finally executed the final test sequence. The program ran flawlessly, adapting to each simulated environment, learning, evolving. Phoenix wasn't just functional, it was revolutionary. He leaned back in his chair, a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration washing over him. Now he just needed someone to listen. 2 weeks later, Devin stood before Stone Venture Partners, a mid-sized investment firm that specialized in reviving distressed companies. The conference room felt oppressively large, 12 pairs of skeptical eyes tracking his movements. The Phoenix framework doesn't just manage systems. It anticipates needs, Devin explained, his voice gaining strength as he navigated through his presentation. It learns from user behavior, adapts to shifting demands, and allocates resources dynamically. In our tests, it reduced overhead by 78% while increasing productivity by 61%. Theodore Stone, the firm's notoriously hard-to-impress founder, leaned forward. And you developed this entirely yourself? After Novak Industries went under? Yes. The company refused to invest in this direction. They were too committed to hardware solutions. Devin didn't mention the screaming matches with the board, the late nights, the warnings that went unheeded. Why bring it to us? Asked Stone. Why not sell it to one of the tech giants? Devin's jaw tightened. Because I want to save my family's company. This is Novak Technology. It should revive Novak Industries. Stone exchanged glances with his partners. Ambitious. But why should we trust the architect of a failed company with our investment? I wasn't running Novak Industries when it failed, Devin said evenly. My ideas were systematically ignored. The Phoenix framework proves I was right. I'm offering you the opportunity to be part of the most significant technological advancement in enterprise software this decade. The meeting stretched for 3 more hours, with Devin answering increasingly technical questions. By the end, Theodore Stone's skepticism had transformed into calculated interest. We'll need our technical team to evaluate the framework thoroughly, Stone said as the meeting concluded. But preliminary impressions are, promising. If everything checks out, we might have a basis for a deal. As Devin packed up his materials, he noticed a text from Brianna. How did it go? For the first time in months, Devin allowed himself a small smile as he typed his response. They're interested. Very interested. The reply came almost immediately. That's amazing. Let's celebrate tonight. I miss the real you. Devin stared at the message, a strange feeling settling in his stomach. The real him had never left. He'd been fighting for their future while she'd been distant and dismissive. But now, with potential success on the horizon, she was suddenly supportive again. He pushed the thought away. Tonight, he would celebrate this small victory. Tomorrow, he would continue the fight to reclaim what was rightfully his. Chapter 2. Resurrection. 3 months later, Novak Industries rose from its ashes. Stone Venture Partners had provided $30 million in funding to acquire the company's assets out of bankruptcy and relaunch with Devin's Phoenix framework as its flagship product. The former headquarters, a glass and steel building in downtown Boston, was alive again, though operating with a skeleton crew of 50 employees instead of the previous 300. Devin's office overlooked the Charles River, a substantial upgrade from his previous workspace. On his desk sat framed articles from tech publications heralding Phoenix as groundbreaking and industry redefining. Initial client acquisitions had exceeded projections by 340%. Brianna had transformed as well. Gone was the distant, disappointed wife. In her place was an enthusiastic partner who suddenly took interest in every aspect of the business. She'd redecorated their new penthouse apartment, thrown dinner parties for potential investors, and become the perfect corporate spouse. Devin should have been elated. Instead, a nagging suspicion clouded his accomplishments. Mr. Novak? His assistant's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Stone is on line 1. Devin picked up the phone. Theodore, good to hear from you. The numbers just came in, Stone said without preamble. Third quarter revenue projections have been revised upward to $78 million. Phoenix is exceeding every benchmark. That's what I promised you, Devin replied. Indeed, the board wants to accelerate expansion. We're voting next week on opening offices in Silicon Valley and Austin. I've already identified potential locations and talent pools in both markets, Devin said. I can have detailed proposals ready by Monday. Perfect. Stone paused. One more thing. Your father called me. Devin's grip tightened on the phone. What did Lawrence want? To congratulate us on the company's revival. He mentioned hosting a family dinner this weekend to celebrate the company's success. The invitation wasn't surprising. Lawrence Novak, despite his faults, was nothing if not image-conscious. The family patriarch would want to associate himself with his son's success, despite having done nothing to support it. I see, Devin said neutrally. It might be worth attending, Stone suggested. Family politics aside, Lawrence Novak still has connections that could benefit us. I'll consider it, Devin replied, ending the call shortly after. He swiveled his chair to face the window, watching boats navigate the river below. His relationship with his father had always been complicated. Lawrence had built Novak Industries into a regional power, but had always treated Devin as an afterthought. His sister Melody, despite having no interest or aptitude for technology, had always been the favorite. Appointed to executive positions she wasn't qualified for, given preferential treatment in family matters. When Devin had warned about the company's outdated direction, Lawrence had dismissed him as pessimistic and lacking vision. When competitors began eating into their market share, Devin's suggested pivots were rejected as panic reactions. And when the company finally faced bankruptcy, Lawrence had blamed market conditions rather than acknowledging the strategic failures Devin had predicted. Now, with Devin's success apparent, Lawrence wanted to play the proud father. The hypocrisy was galling. His office door opened, and Brianna walked in, radiant in an expensive new dress. I just got off the phone with your father, she said, excitement evident in her voice. We're having dinner at the estate this Saturday to celebrate. The whole family will be there. Devin raised an eyebrow. He called you directly? We've been talking more lately, Brianna said with a casual wave. He's really proud of what you've accomplished, Dev. This is your moment. Funny how his pride only materializes after the success is undeniable, Devin muttered. Brianna approached his desk, perching on its edge. Can you just enjoy this? You were right. Everyone else was wrong, and now you're being recognized for it. Devin studied his wife. Her renewed enthusiasm for their marriage had coincided precisely with the company's resurrection. The designer clothes, the social engagements, the sudden interest in his work, all had returned with their improved financial situation. I suppose I should be grateful for the recognition, he said carefully, even if it's belated. That's the spirit. Brianna leaned down to kiss him. I need to run. I'm meeting Melody for lunch. We're planning a surprise for the dinner. After she left, Devin turned to his computer and pulled up the building's security logs, a habit he'd developed since becoming CEO again. His paranoia had saved him once. He wouldn't abandon it now. He scrolled through visitor records, stopping abruptly at an entry from 2 weeks ago. Preston Hargrove, his sister's husband and former board member, had visited the building and gone to the executive floor. According to the log, he'd stayed for nearly 2 hours. Devin hadn't seen him, which meant Preston had met with someone else. But who? A quick check of calendar records showed Devin had been in an off-site meeting that day. Further investigation revealed something even more concerning. Brianna had been in the building, having lunch in the executive dining room. With a growing sense of unease, Devin pulled up Preston's company profile from before the bankruptcy. Princeton-educated, old money, connected to half of Boston's elite. Preston had been instrumental in some of the worst decisions that led to the company's downfall. He'd pushed for expensive acquisitions that never integrated properly and opposed Devin's software initiatives at every turn. And now he was meeting with Brianna while Devin was away. Devin closed the records, his mind racing. He needed more information before jumping to conclusions. But one thing was certain. The upcoming family dinner wasn't just a celebration. Something else was happening behind the scenes, and he needed to find out what. Chapter 3. Betrayal. The Novak estate sprawled across 3 acres in Brookline, a monument to Lawrence Novak's success and ego. Manicured gardens surrounded the colonial mansion, and a circular driveway accommodated the luxury vehicles of arriving guests. Devin parked his Tesla behind his sister's Range Rover, steeling himself for the evening ahead. Remember, this is your night, Brianna said as they walked toward the entrance. She wore a stunning red dress that had arrived that morning from a boutique Devin didn't recognize, along with a diamond necklace he didn't recall purchasing. Your success, your vindication. Our success, Devin corrected automatically, though the words felt hollow. Something had shifted between them, a subtle realignment he couldn't quite define. Lawrence greeted them at the door, his imposing figure somewhat diminished by age but still commanding. At 68, his hair had gone completely white, but his piercing blue eyes, so like Devin's own, remained sharp. The man of the hour, Lawrence declared, embracing Devin with uncharacteristic warmth. I always knew you had it in you, son. The blatant lie made Devin's jaw clench, but he returned the embrace. Thank you for hosting, Dad. Brianna, radiant as always, Lawrence continued, kissing her cheek. That necklace is exquisite. A gift from a dear friend, she replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. For the occasion. Inside, the gathering was larger than Devin had expected. Beyond family, Lawrence had invited board members from Novak Industries' pre-bankruptcy days, several prominent Boston businessmen, and even Theodore Stone. The message was clear. Lawrence was publicly aligning himself with Devin's success while simultaneously reminding everyone of his own legacy. Melody approached, champagne in hand, her husband Preston trailing behind her. At 35, 2 years older than Devin, Melody had inherited their mother's striking beauty and their father's shrewd calculation. Little brother, she said, embracing him, the tech genius himself. I always said you'd do something remarkable one day. Another lie. Melody had consistently undermined him at board meetings, supporting her husband's opposing vision for the company. Melody, Preston. Devin nodded to his brother-in-law, who offered a tight smile in return. Quite the turnaround, Preston said. Stone Venture Partners must be thrilled with their investment. They are, Devin confirmed. As are our clients. The Phoenix framework has exceeded every projection. I'd love to hear more about the technical details, Preston said with practiced interest. Perhaps we could meet for lunch next week? Before Devin could respond, Lawrence tapped a knife against his crystal glass, calling for attention. The gathering moved to the dining room, where an elaborate meal awaited. Devin found himself seated at Lawrence's right hand, the position of honor, with Brianna beside him. Preston and Melody sat across from them, with Theodore Stone situated at the far end of the table. The conversation flowed along with expensive wine, dominated by discussions of Novak Industries' remarkable resurrection. Devin answered questions about the technology, his vision for expansion, and the projected growth. Throughout it all, he noticed subtle exchanges, glances, nods, small smiles between Brianna, Preston, and his father. As dessert was served, Lawrence stood to make a toast. Family, friends, colleagues, tonight we celebrate not just the revival of Novak Industries, but its transformation into something greater than before. He raised his glass. When adversity struck, most saw only disaster. But true vision sees opportunity in crisis. True leadership rises from the ashes. Murmurs of agreement circled the table. Devin felt Brianna's hand squeeze his knee beneath the table. That's why, Lawrence continued, after careful consideration and consultation with Theodore Stone and the new board, I've made an important decision regarding the company's future leadership. Devin tensed. This wasn't expected. While technical innovation is the heart of our resurrection, Novak Industries needs a leader with broader vision. Someone who combines technical understanding with the social capital and connections necessary to navigate Boston's business landscape. Lawrence smiled at Brianna. That's why I'm pleased to announce that Brianna Novak will be assuming the role of Chief Executive Officer, effective immediately. The room erupted in applause. Devin sat frozen, his glass halfway to his lips. Devin will continue as Chief Technology Officer, focusing his remarkable talents on what he does best, creating groundbreaking technology, Lawrence added, while Brianna guides the company's overall strategy. Theodore Stone nodded approvingly. Preston raised his glass with a triumphant smile. Melody watched Devin with barely concealed satisfaction. After all, Lawrence said, turning to Devin, you're just not good enough as a leader. We need someone who can play the game at the highest levels. Someone who understands how real business works. The room went silent. Lawrence seemed to realize his mistake, attempting to recover by adding, which isn't to diminish your contribution, son. But the damage was done. The truth had slipped out. This wasn't recognition. It was another dismissal dressed as promotion. Lawrence reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded check. For your extraordinary effort, he said, handing it to Devin. Devin unfolded it. $5,000. A pittance compared to what Phoenix was already worth. You've positioned the company for success, Lawrence continued, oblivious to the insult. Now it's time to let Brianna take it to the next level. Devin looked at his wife, who met his gaze with an expression that mingled apology with ambition. I was going to tell you, she whispered. After the announcement, clarity struck Devin with devastating force. The meetings with Preston, the renewed interest in his work, the expensive clothes, the diamond necklace from a dear friend. It all made perfect sense now. While he'd been fighting to save the company, they'd been plotting to take it from him. Devin stood abruptly, silencing the room. Thank you for the dinner, he said quietly. And the check. If you'll excuse me, I have work to do. Without waiting for a response, he walked out, ignoring Brianna's call to wait. As he reached his car, his phone buzzed with a message from Theodore Stone. We should talk tomorrow. This transition will be smooth if we all cooperate. Devin drove home in silence, his mind clear for the first time in months. By the time he reached their penthouse, he had already formulated the beginnings of a plan. He packed an overnight bag, collected his essential electronics, and transferred funds to a separate account he'd maintained since the bankruptcy, a precaution that now seemed prescient. As he prepared to leave, he noticed a framed photo on their bedside table, Devin and Brianna on their wedding day, both smiling for a future that now would never be. He placed it face down before walking out. By the time Brianna returned home, Devin was long gone. And on his laptop, a single program ran silently in the background. The first protocol of a contingency he designed but never thought he'd need to use. Chapter 4. Countermeasures. Devin checked into the Royal Sonesta under a different name, a small hotel overlooking the Charles River that offered both anonymity and proximity to Novak Industries. He needed to be close to monitor the situation while remaining unseen. The suite's dining table had been transformed into a command center. 3 laptops running various programs, each tracking different aspects of his developing Counter-Strike. On the wall, printouts of financial records, corporate bylaws, and communications formed a growing web of connections. 3 days had passed since the dinner. 3 days of careful planning, of leveraging hidden assets, and calling in favors from industry contacts who owed him for past courtesies. 3 days of watching as Brianna, Preston, and Lawrence attempted to consolidate their control over his company. His phone rang, Theodore Stone, for the 12th time. Devin let it go to voicemail again. The time for negotiation had passed the moment they'd plotted behind his back. A knock at the door pulled his attention away from the screens. Placing his hand on the small pistol he'd acquired the previous day, legal, registered, but a necessary precaution given the stakes, Devin approached the door and checked the peephole. A slender woman with copper-red hair and familiar green eyes stood in the hallway. Devin opened the door. "Alexandra, how did you find me?" Alexandra Russo, Alex to her friends, stepped into the suite without waiting for an invitation, her critical gaze sweeping over his makeshift headquarters. At 31, she was Devin's oldest friend, a brilliant cybersecurity specialist he'd met in college, and one of the few people who had supported his vision from the beginning. "Please," she scoffed. "You used your backup identity, the one you created during our InfoSEC final project. Did you really think I wouldn't remember Benjamin Dover? Juvenile name aside, you're not that hard to track if someone knows where to look." Devin secured the door. "I wasn't hiding from you. No, just from your wife, father, sister, and the entire board of your company." Alex dropped her messenger bag on a chair. "You've caused quite the stir, vanishing like that. Brianna's worried sick. Worried her asset has gone rogue. More likely," Devin muttered. Alex studied the wall of documents. "So it's true? They staged a corporate coup. They've been planning it for weeks, possibly months." Devin returned to his laptops. "Preston's been meeting with Brianna secretly. My father restructured the voting rights before the announcement, and Stone Venture Partners knew about it in advance." "Damn." Alex sat across from him. "What are you going to do?" "What I do best. Solve complex problems with elegant solutions." Devin turned one of the screens toward her. "I built Phoenix with certain contingencies." Alex leaned forward, scanning the code visible on the screen. Her eyes widened. "You built a backdoor into your own system? That's prudent, as it turns out." Devin's expression was grim. "Phoenix isn't just managing their systems, it's watching them." "And what exactly are you looking for?" "Leverage." Devin pulled up another window, showing financial transactions. "They think they've outmaneuvered me, but they didn't build the system they're now using. I have access to every document, email, transaction." "And you found something?" Devin nodded slowly. "Preston's been diverting development funds through shell companies. Small amounts, carefully hidden, but a pattern emerges if you know where to look. Meanwhile, Brianna's been meeting with competitors. And my father." He hesitated. "My father altered his will last month. Left everything to Melody." Alex's expression softened with understanding. "So, it's not just professional. It's personal. It's always been both." Devin closed the laptop. "They didn't just take my company, Alex. They want to erase me entirely. So, this is about revenge. Justice," Devin corrected, "and protection. They'll destroy everything I've built if I don't stop them." Alex was silent for a moment, considering. "What do you need from me?" "Access to Preston's private server. He keeps a separate system for his personal files, outside the Phoenix framework. And when you get that access, what's the endgame, Devin?" Devin met her gaze directly. "I'm going to take back what's mine, and I'm going to make sure they can never do this to anyone else." Alex nodded slowly. "I'll help you, but with one condition: no one gets physically hurt. I won't be part of anything that crosses that line. This isn't about violence. Devin assured her. It's about truth. All I'm going to do is reveal what they've been hiding. As Alex began setting up her equipment, Devin returned to his monitoring programs. On one screen, a notification indicated an emergency board meeting scheduled for the following morning. The agenda: CTO position reassessment. They weren't just taking his company, they were eliminating him entirely. Alex, Devin said quietly, we need to accelerate the timeline. Across town, in the penthouse Devin had abandoned, Brianna paced nervously while Preston watched from the sofa, nursing a scotch. He's been gone for 3 days, Preston. 3 days. No contact, no response to messages, nothing. Her usually perfectly styled hair was disheveled from running her hands through it repeatedly. What if he does something drastic? Like what? Preston replied, his tone dismissive. Devin's not the drastic action type. He's a thinker, not a doer. That's why this transition was necessary. You don't know him like I do, Brianna insisted. He's changed since the bankruptcy. There's a hardness to him now. Preston stood, approaching her. Listen to me, Bree. Everything is proceeding according to plan. The board supports you. Lawrence has secured the investor backing. By this time tomorrow, Devin will be removed as CTO and offered a generous severance package. He can either accept it or face legal action for abandoning his position. And if he fights back, if he goes public with accusations, who would believe him? The brilliant but unstable technologist, bitter about being passed over, against the united front of the board, the investors, and his own family. Preston placed his hands on her shoulders. We've covered every angle. Brianna pulled away, walking to the window. I never wanted it to happen like this. The plan was to ease him out gradually, let him down gently. Plans change, Preston said simply. Lawrence thought it best to make a clean break. And I agree. Dragging it out would only have been crueler. Brianna turned back to him, conflict evident in her expression. Sometimes I wonder if we're doing the right thing. Preston's face hardened. The right thing? Brianna, Novak Industries will be worth billions within 5 years. Do you want to be the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company or the ex-wife of a controlling tech hermit who would have run it into the ground again with his obsessions? That's not fair. Phoenix is revolutionary. Everyone says so. The technology, yes. But companies aren't built on technology alone. They require leadership, connections, strategic vision. Preston finished his scotch. Qualities Devin simply doesn't possess. Brianna's phone chirped with a message. She checked it, her expression shifting to alarm. It's Theodore Stone. There's been a security breach at the company. Core systems are behaving erratically. Preston tensed. What kind of breach? He doesn't say. Just that we need to come in immediately. She looked up, fear evident in her eyes. Do you think, could Devin be behind this? Preston reached for his coat. If he is, he's just made the biggest mistake of his life. Chapter 5, Digital Warfare. The emergency response team assembled in Novak Industries' main conference room at 11:47 p.m. Brianna sat at the head of the table, flanked by Preston and Theodore Stone. Around them, bleary-eyed system administrators and security specialists worked frantically on laptops. Status update, Brianna demanded, struggling to project authority despite her growing panic. The anomaly started approximately 90 minutes ago, reported Nora Vincent, the head of IT security. At first, it was subtle, slight delays in processing, minor data discrepancies. But it's escalating. The Phoenix framework is, well, it's making decisions we didn't authorize. What kind of decisions? Preston asked sharply. Resource allocations, priority shifts, data routing. Nora pulled up a diagram on the main screen. It's as if the adaptive algorithms have been modified to pursue different objectives. In English, please, Brianna snapped. The system is rejecting our authority, Theodore Stone said quietly. It's following someone else's commands. The unspoken name hung in the air, Devin. Can we shut it down? Brianna asked. Nora shook her head. Not safely. Phoenix has integrated too deeply into our infrastructure. A hard shutdown would take out critical systems, including financial operations and client services. What about a rollback to a previous version? Preston suggested. We've tried. The system is blocking access to backup servers. Nora's expression was grim. It's as if it anticipated our countermeasures. Theodore Stone stood abruptly. We need to contact Devin. Whatever grievance he has, this isn't the way to address it. We don't know that this is Devin, Brianna argued, though her voice lacked conviction. Who else would have the capability? Stone demanded. Who else would have motive? I warned you both that removing him so abruptly was dangerous. The man built the system from the ground up. Of course, he included safeguards. The conference room door opened, and Lawrence Novak entered, his expression thunderous. What the hell is happening to my company? Dad, we're handling it, Brianna began. Handling it? Lawrence cut her off. I've just received calls from 3 major clients reporting service disruptions. The stock price is already dropping in after-hours trading based on rumors. This doesn't look handled to me. Before anyone could respond, every screen in the room suddenly went dark, then illuminated with the same message. Phoenix Protocol activated. Security verification required. Unauthorized leadership detected. What in God's name? Lawrence muttered. The screens changed again, displaying a simple countdown. 12 hours, ticking down second by second. 12 hours, Nora whispered. We have 12 hours until something. Find my son, Lawrence ordered. Whatever it takes. Find him and get him to stop this insanity. In a darkened room across the river, Devin watched the chaos unfold through remote monitoring systems. Beside him, Alex typed rapidly, bypassing security protocols to access deeper levels of the company's infrastructure. They're panicking, she reported. Emergency teams called in, executives on site. Your countdown has them spooked. Good, Devin said calmly. Fear makes people careless. The countdown is a bluff, right? Alex glanced at him. Just to keep them distracted while we access the secure servers? Devin's expression remained neutral. Of course. Alex looked unconvinced, but returned to her work. I've almost got access to Preston's private server. His security is better than I expected, but he made a classic mistake, using the same password pattern across multiple systems. Devin nodded absently, his attention on another screen showing financial data flowing through the Phoenix framework. With subtle commands, he was redirecting information, creating a comprehensive map of transactions that told a very different story than the one presented to investors. His phone rang, a number he didn't recognize. After a moment's hesitation, he answered but said nothing. Devin, Melody's voice. We need to talk. There's nothing to discuss, Melody. His voice was cold. Whatever you're doing, it won't end well for anyone, including you. Her tone was urgent but controlled. Come in, let's negotiate properly. Like you negotiated my removal? Like you negotiated behind my back with my wife. Devin's grip tightened on the phone. No thanks. This isn't just about you anymore. Client data is at risk. People's livelihoods. Don't pretend to care about ethics now. Devin cut her off. Not after what you and Preston did. A pause. What exactly do you think we did, Devin? Beyond the coup? Beyond the betrayal? I know about the fund diversions, Melody, the shell companies, the kickbacks. Did you think Phoenix wouldn't notice unusual financial patterns? It was designed to identify inefficiencies and anomalies. Devin's voice remained steady. It found you. Another pause, longer this time. What do you want? Justice. Truth. Recognition. Devin watched as Alex gave him a thumbs up. She'd broken through Preston's security. But don't worry about what I want. Worry about what happens when everyone else learns what you've been hiding. He ended the call and turned to Alex. What have we got? Everything. Alex's eyes were wide as she scrolled through documents. Email exchanges with Brianna dating back 6 months, planning the takeover. Financial records showing personal use of company funds. And she stopped, looking up at Devin. Love letters. Explicit ones. Devin's expression didn't change, but something cold settled in his chest. They're having an affair. It appears so. Alex's voice was gentle. I'm sorry, Devin. Don't be. Devin pulled the laptop toward him. This is exactly what I needed. As he reviewed the evidence, pieces falling into place, Devin's phone chimed with a text message from an unknown number. It contained only an address in Cambridge and a time, 8 a.m. "Who's that from?" Alex asked. "Theodore Stone, most likely." Devin pocketed the phone. "He wants to meet. Are you going?" Devin nodded slowly. "Phase 1 is complete. We have the evidence. Phase 2 requires a more personal touch." "Devin." Alex's voice turned serious. "Remember our agreement. No one gets physically hurt." "No one will," he assured her. "But that doesn't mean they won't feel pain." At Novak Industries, the situation was deteriorating. The Phoenix framework had begun isolating critical systems, restricting access to higher-level functions while maintaining basic operations. Attempts to override the protocol had failed, each effort seemingly anticipated and countered by the system. Brianna had retreated to Devin's former office, searching desperately for clues about what he might have planned. Preston paced behind her, agitation evident in every movement. "There must be something," she muttered, rifling through drawers. "Notes, plans, anything." "He wouldn't leave evidence lying around," Preston replied. "Not if he planned this." Brianna turned to him, fear giving way to anger. "This is your fault. You pushed for the immediate takeover. You convinced my father-in-law to make the announcement at the dinner." "Our fault," Preston corrected coldly. "Let's not pretend you were an unwilling participant. The CEO position, the power, the money, you wanted it all. I wanted a graceful transition. Not this scorched earth situation." Preston was about to respond when Brianna's phone rang. It was Melody. "I just spoke to Devin," Melody said without preamble when Brianna answered. "Where is he? What did he say?" "He knows, Bri. About the financial irregularities, about the planning behind his back." Melody's voice turned pointed. "About you and Preston." Brianna froze, her eyes darting to Preston. "What exactly did he say?" "Enough to make me think he has proof. He mentioned shell companies, fund diversions, things only someone with deep access would know." "That's impossible," Preston interjected, leaning closer to hear. "Those transactions were completely isolated from company systems." "Well, he knows," Melody snapped. "And if he releases that information, we're not just losing the company. We could face criminal charges." Brianna ended the call, turning to Preston with rising panic. "He knows about us. About everything." Preston's face had gone pale. "Then we need to move faster. Accelerate the recovery efforts. Get control of the system back." "It's too late for that," Brianna interrupted. "Don't you see? He's always been 3 steps ahead of us. We thought we were taking his company, but he's been planning for this possibility all along. So what do you suggest?" Brianna was silent for a moment, calculation replacing fear in her expression. "We need to change the game. If he wants to play with information, we need something more persuasive." "What does that mean?" "It means," Brianna said, her voice hardening, "that we need to remind Devin he's not the only one with leverage." Chapter 6, Collision Course. The Cambridge address led Devin to a small coffee shop tucked away on a side street, the kind of place frequented by students and professors from nearby MIT. At precisely 8 a.m., he walked in, scanning the sparse morning crowd until he spotted Theodore Stone in a corner booth, away from windows. Devin ordered a black coffee before joining him. Neither man spoke as Devin settled into the seat opposite Stone, the ceramic mug warm between his palms. 12 hours, Stone finally said, checking his watch. 9 remaining, according to your countdown. Care to tell me what happens when it reaches 0? Devin took a sip of his coffee. Nothing catastrophic. I'm not a terrorist, Theodore. No, just a man holding a billion-dollar company hostage. Stone leaned forward. This could end your career, Devin. Not just at Novak, anywhere. No company will hire someone who sabotages his own creation. Interesting perspective, Devin replied evenly. I see it differently. I'm protecting my creation from those who would misuse it. Stone studied him. What exactly do you want? Reinstatement as CEO. Full control of the Phoenix framework. Preston removed from any position of influence within the company. And a public acknowledgement of my role in saving Novak Industries. That's a significant reversal of the current situation. The current situation is built on lies, manipulation, and possibly fraud. Devin placed his phone on the table, screen up, displaying financial records. Preston has been diverting development funds to personal accounts through shell companies. My wife has been feeding confidential information to competitors. And my father, he paused. My father has been complicit in all of it. Stone's expression remained carefully neutral as he examined the evidence. These are serious allegations. They're documented facts. Devin took the phone back. Facts I'm prepared to share with the SEC, the board, and the press if necessary. And a countdown, a data protection protocol. When it reaches 0, all evidence of financial irregularities will be automatically transmitted to relevant authorities. Devin's gaze was steady. Unless I enter the cancellation code. Stone was silent for a long moment, considering. You've backed them into a corner. Corner animals are dangerous, Devin. I'm counting on it, Devin replied. I want them desperate. I want them making mistakes. Why meet with me then? Why reveal your hand? Because you're not like them, Theodore. You're a businessman, not a betrayer. You invested in Phoenix because you recognized its value. Devin leaned forward. I'm offering you a chance to be on the right side of what's coming. Stone's phone buzzed with a message. He checked it, his expression shifting subtly. It seems your tactics are having the desired effect. The board has called an emergency session for noon today. Good. They're voting on your termination for cause, citing corporate sabotage. Stone pocketed his phone. If that passes, your legal position weakens considerably. They can't terminate someone who holds the kill switch to their entire operation, Devin pointed out. Perhaps, but they're also exploring other options. Options you may not have anticipated. Devin tensed slightly. What options? I'm not privy to the details. But Brianna seemed confident when she called the meeting. Stone stood, placing a business card on the table. My private number. Call me before you do anything irreversible. After Stone left, Devin remained at the table, unease growing within him. Brianna's confidence suggested she had a counter-move planned, something beyond the digital realm where he held the advantage. His phone buzzed with a message from Alex. Urgent. Return to base. Security breach detected. Devin left immediately, taking an indirect route back to the hotel, watching for signs of surveillance. By the time he reached the Royal Sinesta, his unease had escalated to alarm. The door to his suite was slightly ajar. Drawing his pistol, Devin pushed the door open slowly, scanning the room beyond. The laptops were untouched, still running their monitoring programs. The wall of documents appeared undisturbed. But Alexandra was nowhere to be seen. Alex, he called cautiously, moving deeper into the suite. His phone rang, Brianna's number. With growing dread, he answered. Looking for your friend? Brianna's voice was cold, calculating, a tone he'd never heard from her before. The redhead with the remarkable cyber talents. Devin's grip tightened on the gun. If you've heard her, she's fine. For now. Brianna cut him off. But her continued well-being depends entirely on your cooperation. This isn't her fight, Brianna. Let her go. Oh, she made it her fight when she helped you hack into private servers and corporate systems. Brianna's voice hardened. You forced my hand, Devin. I try to be reasonable, offering you the CTO position, a generous compensation package, recognition for your work. You try to steal what I built, Devin replied, anger rising. You conspired with Preston behind my back, in every sense of the phrase. A pause. So you know about that too. I know everything. The affair, the planning, the financial diversions, all of it. Devin struggled to keep his voice steady. How long, Brianna? How long have you been betraying me? Betraying you? She gave a harsh laugh. You betrayed yourself, Devin. When the company went bankrupt, you became obsessed, distant, consumed by your work. Preston was there for me. He understood the social dynamics, the importance of connections, the reality of how business actually works. Where is Alexandra? She's safe, as I said, and she'll remain that way if you meet my demands. Brianna's tone shifted to business-like efficiency. Disable whatever countdown you've initiated. Transfer full control of the Phoenix framework back to company servers. Provide all access codes and backdoor protocols you've implemented. And in return, your friend goes free. You receive a generous severance package. And we don't press criminal charges for corporate sabotage and intellectual property theft. Devin weighed his options. The original plan had depended on maintaining control of Phoenix while exposing their wrongdoing. With Alex as leverage, the dynamic had shifted dangerously. "I need proof she's unharmed," he said finally. "Check your email." Devin opened his laptop and found a new message containing a video time-stamped 10 minutes earlier. It showed Alexandra in what appeared to be a hotel room, unharmed but clearly under guard. She looked directly at the camera, her expression a mixture of anger and apology. 6 hours, Brianna continued. "That's your new deadline. Meet our demands by then, or your friend faces charges of criminal hacking that will put her in prison for decades. And don't bother trying to find her. She's well beyond your reach." The call ended, leaving Devin standing alone in the middle of his disrupted operation. The carefully constructed plan he developed was unraveling, the control he thought he had slipping away. His phone chimed with a text from an unknown number, black SUV outside. "Your father wants to talk. Come alone or Alexander suffers." Through the window, Devin spotted the vehicle idling at the hotel entrance. 2 men in suits stood beside it, scanning the building. He had lost the initiative. His opponents had identified his vulnerability, not his technology, not his company, but the people he cared about. And they had exploited it ruthlessly. Devin secured his gun, erased critical data from his laptops, and pocketed a small flash drive containing backup evidence. The game had changed, but it wasn't over. They wanted him desperate, reactive, making mistakes out of fear for Alexandra's safety. Instead, they had given him something more dangerous than ambition or vengeance, a purpose beyond himself. As he descended to meet the waiting vehicle, Devin's mind was already formulating a new strategy, one that would require him to appear defeated while executing a more elaborate endgame. A strategy that would save Alexandra, while ensuring those who had betrayed him faced consequences far worse than mere exposure. They had escalated beyond business into the personal realm. He would show them exactly what that meant. Chapter 7. Tactical Surrender. The black SUV wound through Boston traffic, its tinted windows concealing Devin from outside view. He sat in the back, flanked by 2 security personnel, professional muscle hired for the occasion, not regular Novak employees. Neither spoke during the 20-minute drive. Rather than Novak Industries headquarters, the vehicle delivered him to his father's estate in Brookline, the same house where, less than a week ago, his humiliation had been orchestrated. The symmetry wasn't lost on Devin as he was escorted inside, not to the formal dining room this time, but to Lawrence's wood-paneled study. His father sat behind an imposing mahogany desk, with Preston standing by the fireplace. No sign of Brianna or Melody. "Search him," Lawrence ordered. One of the security men patted Devin down efficiently, removing his phone, the flash drive, and a small recording device Devin had deliberately left in his pocket as a decoy. They missed the microscopic data chip embedded in his watch, cutting-edge technology from one of Phoenix's subsidiary developments. "Leave us," Lawrence said to the security team once they'd completed their search. As the door closed behind them, he fixed his gaze on his son. "You've created quite the situation, Devin." "No, Dad. You created it. I'm just responding." Lawrence's expression hardened. "By holding the company hostage? By sabotaging systems? By corporate espionage? Those are felonies, son." "Interesting concerns from someone who's been complicit in financial fraud," Devin replied evenly. "Or did Preston not tell you about the diverted development funds?" Preston stepped forward, his handsome face tight with controlled anger. "Those allocations were approved by appropriate channels. Shell companies registered to your cousin's address aren't appropriate channels," Devin countered. "Neither is falsifying progress reports to justify continued funding." Lawrence raised a hand, silencing Preston's response. "We're not here to debate financial minutiae. We're here to resolve the current crisis. Your friend's future depends on it." "Where is Alexandra?" "Safe," Preston replied. "And she'll remain that way if you cooperate." Devin maintained a carefully neutral expression, but internally he re-evaluated his situation. They were separating him from potential allies, isolating him physically while applying emotional pressure. Standard negotiation tactics, but executed with personal knowledge of his weaknesses. What exactly do you want from me? Devin asked, though he already knew the answer. Lawrence opened a folder on his desk. A full technical debrief on Phoenix's architecture, including all backdoor access points and security protocols. Transfer of intellectual property rights to Novak Industries. Your resignation from the company. And a signed non-disclosure agreement covering both corporate operations and personal matters. In exchange for Alexandra's freedom. No criminal charges against either of you. And financial compensation of $2 million. Lawrence pushed a document toward him. The paperwork is ready. Devin glanced at the agreement without touching it. And if I refuse? Then Ms. Russo faces federal charges for cybercrimes carrying minimum sentences of 15 years. Preston's smile was cold. And you join her, after we reveal how you embedded malicious code in vital corporate infrastructure. Devin looked between the two men, allowing vulnerability to show in his expression, a calculated display of defeat. I need assurance Alexandra is safe before I sign anything. Lawrence nodded to Preston, who made a phone call. After a brief conversation, he activated a video call on his tablet and turned it toward Devin. The screen showed Alexandra in the same hotel room, reading a newspaper with today's date clearly visible. Satisfied? Lawrence asked. Devin nodded slowly. I'll need to disable the countdown protocol first. It's designed to trigger automatically if I don't input cancellation codes every 4 hours. Do it. Lawrence pushed Devin's phone toward him. Under supervision, Devin took the phone and carefully entered a series of commands that appeared to deactivate the countdown visible on Novak Industries systems. In reality, he was initiating a secondary protocol, one that would execute more selectively than the original threat. Done, he said, returning the phone. Now the paperwork, Lawrence insisted. Devin took the pen offered to him, studying the document one more time. $2 million is insultingly low for what Phoenix is worth. It's generous considering the circumstances, Preston countered. Sign, and this unfortunate chapter ends for everyone. With deliberate slowness, Devin signed the papers, his signature a fluid motion that concealed the slight pressure of his wrist against the table, activating the data chip in his watch. Lawrence collected the documents with evident satisfaction. A wise decision. I want to see Alexandra released, Devin said firmly. In person, Preston exchanged a glance with Lawrence. That could be arranged. We'll take you to her now. The journey to Alexandra's location was silent, tension filling the vehicle. Devin maintained his defeated posture, shoulders slumped, gaze downcast, the picture of a man who had lost everything. Internally, however, he was tracking their route, noting that they were heading toward Cambridge rather than downtown Boston. The SUV eventually stopped outside a small boutique hotel. Preston led the way inside, with Devin following and the security personnel close behind. They took the elevator to the 4th floor and proceeded to room 418. Preston knocked, and the door was opened by Melody. Inside, Alexandra sat in an armchair, outwardly calm but with tension evident in her posture. When she saw Devin, relief flooded her features briefly before concern replaced it. You signed, she guessed, reading his expression. Devin nodded. It was the only way. Melody gestured to Alexandra. You're free to go. A car is waiting downstairs to take you wherever you wish. Alexandra stood, gathering her belongings. I'm not leaving without Devin. That wasn't the arrangement, Preston said coldly. Devin has other matters to attend to. It's okay, Alex, Devin assured her, his voice gentle. Go. I'll contact you later. Alexandra hesitated, clearly reluctant, but something in Devin's steady gaze convinced her. She approached him, embracing him briefly. Be careful, she whispered. Always, he replied softly, using the momentary proximity to slip the watch from his wrist to hers, the data chip now securely in her possession. As Alexandra departed, Preston turned to Devin. Now, let's complete your technical debrief. Brianna is waiting at headquarters with the IT team. Of course, Devin replied, his demeanor cooperative. I'll explain everything. The apparent surrender was complete. To all observers, Devin Novak had been defeated, outmaneuvered by his family and former allies. But as he was escorted back to the SUV, A subtle smile played at the corners of his mouth. Phase 3 was now in motion, the most devastating counterstrike yet. Alexandra Russo stepped out of the taxi 6 blocks from the hotel, immediately switching to a bus, then walking several more blocks before entering a small internet cafe. Her hands trembled slightly as she ordered a coffee and selected a workstation in the rear corner, away from windows and other patrons. Devon's watch felt heavy on her wrist, a responsibility she understood without explanation. With practiced movements, she accessed a secure browser and connected to an anonymous network. Then, carefully, she pressed the nearly invisible seam on the watch's underside. A miniature USB connector emerged. Alexandra plugged it into the computer, and a single file appeared, labeled simply Contingency. Inside was a detailed dossier, financial records, email exchanges, recorded conversations, all meticulously organized and annotated. And with it, a set of instructions that made Alexandra's eyes widen as she read. Wait exactly 90 minutes, then execute. Not before. Alexandra checked the time. The countdown had begun. At Novak Industries headquarters, Devon was escorted to the executive conference room where the crisis had been managed throughout the night. Brianna stood as he entered, her expression a complex mixture of triumph and unease. Around the table sat key members of the IT security team, along with Theodore Stone and several board members. Devon, Brianna greeted him with professional coolness. Thank you for cooperating. We're eager to understand the full extent of Phoenix's architecture. Devon took the offered seat. Of course. Where'd you like me to begin? The backdoor protocols, said Nora Vincent, the security chief. How many are there? And how do we permanently remove them? For the next hour, Devon provided detailed technical explanations, most of them accurate, but with subtle misdirections embedded throughout. He described security protocols that existed, but omitted crucial activation sequences. He outlined system architecture while obscuring certain key nodes. The information he provided would allow them to believe they had secured Phoenix while actually leaving several carefully concealed access points intact. Throughout the session, Devon maintained the persona of a defeated innovator reluctantly surrendering his creation. He answered questions directly, offered clarifications when asked, and generally played the role they expected, a brilliant but outmaneuvered technologist accepting the inevitable. One last thing, Nora said as the session was winding down. The adaptive learning algorithms. How do we ensure they don't develop similar autonomous behaviors in the future? You can't, Devon replied honestly. That's the nature of truly adaptive systems. They evolve. The best you can do is establish guardrails and ethical constraints. That's not acceptable, Preston interjected. He had entered midway through the session and now stood by the door, watching Devon with barely concealed hostility. We need absolute control. Then you don't understand what makes Phoenix revolutionary, Devon said simply. Its value comes from its ability to adapt beyond its initial programming. Restrict that, and you have just another management system. We'll take that risk, Brianna declared. Nora, implement control protocols based on Devon's documentation. Restrict the adaptive functions to pre-approved parameters. It won't work, Devon warned. But it's your company now. The subtle emphasis on your company wasn't lost on Brianna, whose expression hardened. Yes, it is. And we'll run it successfully without your interference. Devon checked his watch. Alexandra's original timepiece, swapped during their embrace. If that's all, I believe our agreement included my immediate departure from the company. Theodore Stone, who had been silent throughout the session, finally spoke. Before you go, Devon, I'd like a private word. That's not necessary, Preston began, but Stone cut him off. It wasn't a request, Mr. Hargrove. 5 minutes. Reluctantly, the others filed out, leaving Devon alone with Stone in the conference room. You're not actually surrendering, Stone observed once the door closed. Devon met his gaze steadily. What makes you say that? Because I know people. And people like you. People who build something revolutionary from nothing, who fight when everyone tells them to give up, don't simply walk away when threatened. Stone leaned forward. So what's your real play? You'll find out soon enough, Devin replied. The question is, where will you stand when it happens? Stone studied him carefully. I stand where the best interests of my investment lie. Currently, that's with the existing management structure. And if that structure were to be compromised, then I would reevaluate based on new information. Stone stood. Whatever you're planning, remember that scorched earth tactics rarely benefit anyone. I'm not planning to burn everything down, Devin said as he rose to leave, just to reveal what's been hidden in the darkness. As Devin was escorted from the building, his company ID and access cards confiscated, he maintained the appearance of a man in defeat. But inside, he was counting down the minutes until Alexandra would execute the final phase of his plan. The phase that would change everything. 60 minutes remaining. Then the real counterattack would begin. Chapter 8. System Restore. Exactly 90 minutes after receiving Devin's instructions, Alexandra Russo initiated the contingency protocol. With a few keystrokes, the carefully compiled evidence began flowing to its designated targets: financial regulators, board members, key investors, technology journalists, and law enforcement agencies. Unlike the broad threat of the countdown, this was a surgical strike. Each recipient received only the information relevant to their interests or authorities. Regulators got detailed documentation of financial irregularities. Journalists received evidence of corporate misconduct without compromising client data. Law enforcement received potential criminal violations with supporting evidence. Alexandra watched the automatic confirmations appear on her screen as the files were delivered. Then, as instructed, she activated the second part of the protocol, a dormant program embedded within Phoenix that would systematically expose the manipulation of company resources while preserving core client services. The digital assault was precise, calculated, and devastating. Devin sat in a small cafe across from Novak Industries headquarters, sipping coffee and watching the building through the window. He'd been there for nearly an hour, waiting patiently for the inevitable chaos to erupt. His phone, a new one, purchased with cash after his release, chimed with a message from Alexandra. Package delivered. Confirmations received. Devin allowed himself a small smile. Now came the waiting game. He didn't have to wait long. Within 20 minutes, he observed increased activity at the building's entrance. Security personnel moving with urgency. Executives arriving despite the late hour. His monitoring programs, still running on Alexandra's secure network, showed emergency alerts cascading through the company's communication channels. Another text arrived, this one from Theodore Stone. What have you done? Devin didn't respond. Stone was intelligent enough to figure it out. As the activity at Novak Industries intensified, Devin felt strangely detached from the turmoil he had orchestrated. This wasn't about revenge anymore, at least not entirely. It was about justice, about truth, about establishing that actions had consequences. His phone rang, an unknown number. He answered without speaking. You've made a grave mistake. Lawrence Novak's voice was tight, with barely controlled fury. Hello, Dad, Devin replied calmly. Having a difficult evening? Do you have any idea what you've done? The SEC is demanding records. Stone Venture Partners is threatening to withdraw funding. Our stock is in free fall. Consequences, Dad, for the shell companies, for the diverted funds, for the lies. Devin's voice remained steady. I warned you all what would happen if you push me out. This isn't just about you anymore. Lawrence shouted. The company will collapse again. Is that what you want? To destroy your family's legacy out of spite. The company won't collapse. Phoenix is too valuable. The client base too established. Devin watched as more cars arrived at the headquarters. What will collapse is the corrupt management structure that tried to steal my work. A pause. What do you want, Devin? I think you know. Tell me anyway. Full reinstatement as CEO. Preston removed from all positions within the company. His ownership shares transferred to a trust for employee benefits. A public acknowledgement of the attempted coup and subsequent cover-up. Devin took a sip of his coffee. And a board restructuring that ensures this can never happen again. And Brianna? Lawrence asked quietly. Devin's grip tightened on the phone. Her fate is her own to decide. but she won't be part of Novak Industries in any capacity. Another long pause. The board will never agree to these terms. The damage is too extensive. Then let me speak to someone who can make decisions. Someone whose investment is at risk. Someone like Theodore Stone. Stone has already called an emergency board meeting, Lawrence admitted. It's happening now. Good. Tell him I'll be there in 30 minutes. Devin ended the call, then texted Alexandra. Phase 3 complete. Meet me at headquarters. The walk across the street felt symbolic. A return from exile, a reclaiming of territory. Security personnel recognized him immediately, their expressions shifting from suspicion to uncertainty as they received instructions through their earpieces. Without a word, they escorted him to the executive elevator. The boardroom was filled with tense energy when Devin entered. Theodore Stone sat at the head of the table, flanked by remaining board members. Brianna and Preston were notably absent, as was Lawrence. Mr. Novak, Stone greeted him with formal neutrality. Your timing is impeccable. I thought it might be, Devin replied, taking an empty seat. Shall we discuss the company's future? The company's future is in serious jeopardy thanks to your actions. One board member, Harrison Wells, a longtime ally of Lawrence, said accusingly. The SEC investigation alone could take months, possibly years. Only if you resist, Devin countered. Full cooperation, transparent acknowledgement of past misconduct, and a clear plan for structural reform would expedite the process considerably. And I suppose you have such a plan? Wells asked sarcastically. I do. Devin pulled a tablet from his bag and connected it to the room's display system. A complete reorganization proposal, including leadership changes, governance reforms, and a strategy for rebuilding investor confidence. The board members exchanged glances as Devin outlined his plan. Himself as CEO, Alexander Russo as Chief Security Officer, a restructured board with stronger independent oversight, and a transparency initiative to rebuild trust with regulators and clients. This is remarkably comprehensive, Stone observed when Devin finished. Almost as if you anticipated this exact scenario. I believe in being prepared, Devin replied simply. And what about the financial damages from today's events? Wells demanded. The stock has dropped 18% already. A temporary setback. My plan includes a stabilization strategy using Phoenix's demonstrated value to key clients. The market will recover once leadership is stabilized and the regulatory issues are addressed transparently. Stone stood, commanding the room's attention. I've reviewed the evidence Mr. Novak has compiled. I've also spoken with our major investors and several key clients. The consensus is clear. The current management team has lost credibility. A change is necessary for the company's survival. You can't seriously be considering putting him in charge, Wells protested. After what he's done. What he's done, Stone replied evenly, is expose serious misconduct that would eventually have been discovered anyway, likely with far more damaging consequences. He's also created a technology that continues to demonstrate extraordinary market potential. Stone turned to Devin. The board will need to vote formally, but I believe we have consensus on the essential elements of your proposal. There are, however, some outstanding issues requiring immediate attention. Such as, Devin asked. Preston Hargrove and Brianna Novak have already tendered their resignations, effective immediately. Lawrence Novak, however, is refusing to step down as chairman. Devin nodded, having anticipated this resistance. Where's my father now? In his office, Stone replied. He's requested to speak with you privately before any final decisions are made. Devin stood. Then let's not keep him waiting. Lawrence Novak stared out the window of his corner office, his back to the door when Devin entered. For a moment, neither spoke, the weight of decades of complicated history hanging between them. I underestimated you, Lawrence finally said, still facing the window. A mistake I've made repeatedly, it seems. Yes, Devin agreed simply. Lawrence turned, his face showing his age more prominently than Devin had ever seen. Was all this necessary? The public exposure, the regulatory investigations, the market panic? You left me no choice, Devin replied. You took everything from me, my company, my position, my marriage. You humiliated me in front of family and colleagues. What did you expect me to do? Walk away quietly? I expected you to negotiate, to fight within the system, not burn it down. Lawrence sank into his chair. Your grandfather built this company from nothing. I expanded it across the region, and now you've placed its entire future at risk. No, Dad. You did that when you conspired with Preston and Brianna. Devin remained standing, unwilling to cede even symbolic ground. I'm saving the company again, but this time, I'm ensuring no one can take it from me. Lawrence was silent for a long moment. And what becomes of me in this new order you're creating? That depends on you, Devin said. You can fight this, drag it out through legal challenges and public battles. Battles you'll ultimately lose given the evidence. Or you can accept a dignified retirement, maintain your position as chairman emeritus, and preserve what's left of your legacy. And my relationship with my son? Lawrence asked quietly. The question caught Devin off guard. In all his planning, all his calculations, he hadn't considered reconciliation with his father. Revenge, justice, vindication. These had been his objectives, not forgiveness. That will take time, Devin finally answered. Trust once broken isn't easily restored. Lawrence nodded slowly. A lesson I'm learning too late, it seems. He reached into his desk drawer and removed a folded document, sliding it across to Devin. My resignation as chairman, effective immediately. Devin took the document without opening it. A wise decision. Not wisdom, Lawrence corrected. Necessity, and perhaps a first step toward atonement. He stood, extending his hand. Congratulations, CEO Novak. Devin hesitated before accepting the handshake. Firm, professional, neither warm nor cold. Not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement. A beginning. The board will expect your public support for the transition, Devin said as he moved toward the door. They'll have it, Lawrence promised. One last thing, Devin. Devin paused, looking back. Your mother would have been proud. She always said you were the one who truly understood what it meant to build something worthwhile. The mention of his mother, gone 10 years now, struck Devin unexpectedly. He nodded once, unable to formulate a response, and left the office. In the hallway, he found Alexandra waiting, a slight smile playing on her lips. Well, is it done? It's done, Devin confirmed. Lawrence has resigned. Stone is bringing the board in line. Preston and Brianna are gone. And now we rebuild. Devin's expression was determined as they walked toward the boardroom. Better than before. Stronger. More honest. A phoenix rising, Alexandra said, linking her arm with his. Exactly, Devin agreed as they pushed through the doors together, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Chapter 9, Recoded. 1 year later. The formal announcement came on a crisp October morning, delivered through all major financial news outlets simultaneously. Novak Industries had reported annual profits of $250 million, exceeding projections by 32%. The Phoenix framework had been licensed to over 200 major corporations worldwide. The company's stock had not only recovered from the previous year's crisis, but had surged to record highs. Devin Novak, now firmly established as CEO, stood in his office reviewing the press coverage. The Wall Street Journal had run a feature titled The Resurrection Architect, How Devin Novak Transformed Disaster into Dynasty. Ford had placed him on their 40 under 40 list. MIT Technology Review had declared Phoenix the most significant enterprise software innovation of the decade. A knock at his door interrupted his reading. Alexandra entered, tablet in hand. The quarterly security audit is complete, she reported. Systems are secure, compliance protocols functioning at optimal levels. Excellent, Devin replied. And the new adaptive enhancements? Performing beyond expectations. Client feedback is overwhelmingly positive. She set her tablet down. We're being compared favorably to every major tech company in the sector. Devin nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. And our special monitoring protocols? Alexandra's smile turned knowing, still running silently in the background. No unusual activities detected. These special protocols were insurance policies, carefully designed monitoring systems that track potential threats to the company's integrity. After the previous year's events, Devin took no chances with corporate security or governance. Perfect. Devin checked his watch. The board meeting starts in 20 minutes. Walk with me. As they moved through the executive floor, employees nodded respectfully or offered brief greetings. The company culture had transformed under Devin's leadership. More collaborative, more innovative, but also more vigilant. Transparency had become a core value, with regular all-hands meetings where financials and strategic decisions were openly discussed. Have you heard from your father recently? Alexandra asked as they waited for the elevator. He called last week from his place in Florida, Devin replied. Seems to be enjoying retirement, surprisingly enough. The reconciliation with Lawrence had been slow, cautious, neither man entirely willing to trust again, but both recognizing the value of family bonds, however strained. Monthly phone calls had gradually evolved into occasional visits. Not forgiveness, perhaps, but a truce built on mutual respect. And Brianna? Any word? Devin's expression tightened slightly. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago. Last I heard, she and Preston had relocated to Chicago. The aftermath of the corporate coup had been particularly harsh for Brianna and Preston. Beyond losing their positions at Novak Industries, they had faced significant professional repercussions when their roles in the financial irregularities became public. No formal charges have been filed, part of Devin's negotiated settlement, but their reputations in Boston's business community have been irreparably damaged. Do you ever regret how it all played out? Alexandra asked as they entered the elevator. Devin considered the question seriously. I regret the necessity of it, he finally said, not the outcome. The boardroom was already filled when they arrived. Theodore Stone, who had remained as a key investor and ally, sat at Devin's right hand. The restructured board included industry experts, independent directors, and for the first time, 2 employee representatives, part of Devin's governance reforms. Before we begin, Devin said once everyone was seated, I want to acknowledge an important anniversary. 1 year ago today, Novak Industries was in crisis. Our future was uncertain, our leadership compromised, our very existence threatened. Heads nodded around the table. The crisis still fresh in institutional memory despite the subsequent success. Today we stand transformed. Not just financially successful, but ethically grounded and strategically positioned for decades of growth. Devin's gaze swept the room. This didn't happen by accident. It happened because we made difficult choices, because we prioritized integrity over expediency, because we recognized that true leadership isn't about control, it's about vision. Stone raised his coffee cup in a small salute. A vision you've certainly demonstrated, Devin. A shared vision, Devin corrected. One that requires all of us to maintain. He opened his tablet, bringing up the quarterly results on the room's display. Now, let's discuss our future. Later that evening, Devin stood on the balcony of his new apartment overlooking Boston Harbor. The lights of the city reflected on the dark water. A tapestry of human ambition and ingenuity spread before him. He took a sip of scotch, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. The bankruptcy that had nearly destroyed everything. The innovation born from desperation. The betrayal that had tested his resolve. The calculated counterattack that had restored his position. A soft chime from his phone interrupted his thoughts. A message from Theodore Stone containing a link to a business news article. The headline read, Hargrove Ventures fails in first year. Investors lose millions. Preston's attempt to rebuild his career had apparently faltered. Devin felt no satisfaction at the news, only a distant acknowledgement that consequences continued to unfold. He closed the article without finishing it. Another message arrived, this one from Alexandra. Still coming over for dinner? I made that pasta you like. Devin smiled as he typed his reply, on my way. Bringing dessert. Their relationship had evolved gradually over the past year, friendship deepening into something more as they rebuilt the company together. Alexandra understood him in ways Brianna never had, appreciated his technical brilliance, challenged his thinking, shared his vision for what technology could achieve. With her, there was no pretense, no hidden agenda, just genuine partnership. As he gathered his keys and jacket, Devin glanced at the framed article on his wall. The first major coverage after his return to leadership, headlined Phoenix Rising, Novak Industries reborn under founder's son. The journey wasn't over. There would be new challenges, new competitors, new technologies to develop. But Devin faced the future with confidence born of hard-won experience. He had saved his company twice, first with innovation, then with determination. He had lost, suffered, fought back, and ultimately prevailed. Most importantly, he had redefined success on his own terms. Not just financial achievement or market dominance, but the creation of something meaningful and enduring. Something his grandfather would have recognized and his mother would have been proud of. As Devin left his apartment and headed toward a future bright with possibility, he carried with him the most valuable lesson of the past year. True strength comes not from never falling, but from rising each time you fall, transformed, wiser, and more resilient than before. A phoenix reborn from its own ashes. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.